for women, 2020 wasn't just a setback. It was a revelation.
There's too many of you crying. Oh, brother, brother, brother. There's far too many of you dying.
Why? Because even with all of the progress we've made, we're still more likely to earn less than our male counterparts, and still called on to be caregivers first, putting us at risk of having 25 years of progress wiped out, just like that. But the truth is, we keep rising.
What's going on? 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 What's going on?
Because we've come too far to only come this far. Together, we are unstoppable. And together, we will get our friends and sisters back into the workforce. Because you know what's really going on? We are.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer De Silva, and I'm the president of Berlin Cameron and the founder of LL She, our division that works with women-led and women-loved brands. I'm also the founder of Connect for Women, a networking group that makes connections for women. And I am so excited to be here today to talk to you about finding fuel and support in the first ever Shecession. In the past year, we've had a global pandemic, a major economic recession, environmental disasters, more work than we can imagine, and we can all agree that this year has just sucked. And that is a complete understatement. And one overlooked group has been particularly affected: women, and especially women of color. For the first time, we're having a recession that is impacting women more than men. Women have lost over 5 million jobs since February 2020, and this is sparking the first Shecession. To recover, we must not put the onus on women. This is a systematic issue that has brought us here, and we need to ensure women, regardless of background, are receiving the tools and resources that they need to bounce back and really help to accelerate the 30 potential years of progress that we could have lost. And also the fact that the pay gap might be increasing 5%. This panel is going to dive into the real issues that impact women in the workplace and offer tangible solutions to these systematic problems, highlighting tangible solutions like mentorship, networking, summits, and funding to reimagine a new path forward. And I want these amazing panelists to introduce themselves because they're all such rock stars, and I'm so lucky to be in the virtual room with them. If only I was in the real room with them, it would be even better. So let's start with you, Kate.
Hi, and thanks, Jen, for having me, and really in great company with you and Anisha and B. My name is Kate Luzio. I'm founder and CEO of Luminary. I left a very long career as a banking executive to launch a startup about 2 years ago. We were 14 months old when the pandemic hit, and our main mission is to advance women in the workforce across 3 professional journeys of women in the workforce, women in entrepreneurship, and women in transition. And oh boy, those 3 professional journeys have changed dramatically this year. Our space, our physical space is here in New York. And prior to the pandemic, we were a physical space and a physical community for women as well as men. More than 40% of our members are women of color. And when the pandemic hit, we literally went online overnight and are now a global community with thousands of women members and men around the world, including about 36 corporate members that are really putting their money where their mouth is and supporting their women in the workforce.
Amazing. Anisha?
Hi, everybody, and I'm so happy to be with this group as well. My name is Anisha Raghavan, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Global Brands Americas at Walgreens Boots Alliance. Quite a mouthful, but what that means is I manage the portfolio of brands that Walgreens owns. There's multiple beauty brands, and although Walgreens owns them, We are distributed in lots of different retailers, Ulta and Target and Walmart, Kroger, Kohl's, for example. So that's my role. I've always been in marketing and brand management, but I've also always been very passionate about issues facing women and helping around those issues. So I'm just really happy to be here.
Thank you, Anisha. B?
Hi, everybody. First off, thank you guys, or you ladies, I should say. And I really appreciate you asking Honeypot to be a part of this, Jennifer. But my name is Beatrice Dixon. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Honeypot company. You know, at the Honeypot, my initiative, my goal is to empower women's vaginas. That's really what I do. You know, I really want to kill the stigmas and shame and guilt around the things that that humans with vaginas have to deal with on a daily basis, right? Namely, the biggest thing is the whole notion that vagina is a dirty word. And so, you know, we are a plant-based feminine care company who has done what nobody else has done even up until now. Our brand portfolio features washes, wipes, pads, tampons, panty sprays, you know, clean treatments, boric acid, you know, beautiful vulva creams. I love saying all these words in public. You know, but yeah, our goal is to empower humans with vaginas, and also humans that are not necessarily heard, which they may not have a vagina, but they may identify with having one, right? Or they may have one and not identify with having one. And so we are here for all of the humans in the world, including those disenfranchised.
And we're a proud supporter of the Honeypot.
Yes. Yes.
The Honeypot products, and consumer, as am I. And I love what B has built at the and really demystifying everything with regard to vagina.
Yes. Thank you, friend.
I love that too. Well, so let's shift the conversation to, you know, the Shecession and actually how humans with vaginas have been affected in that. Anisha, I'd love to hear from you. What does the Shecession mean to you? And can you talk about what inspired number 7 to create the amazing, of course, I'm going to say that, I'm definitely biased, Unstoppable Together movement? And then how is it playing a role in helping women get back to work?
Yeah. Well, starting with your first question, what does it mean to me? I mean, it means a lot to me because this is one of the biggest issues that women are facing right now. And Vice President Kamala Harris just called it a national crisis, which it is. You know, women have left the workforce at 4 times the rate of men. And our labor participation is back to what it was in 1989. And so if you think about that, we've wiped out 30 years of progress on women in the workforce in less than a year. So it's something that we all need to help with. Our nation's leaders need to get involved with. Businesses and brands need to get involved with. So I'm really proud of being part of the number 7 team. It's number 7 is one of the brands in the Walgreens Boots Alliance portfolio. And the brand is known for skincare and cosmetics. It's a beauty brand, but it's also known for having this mission around helping women when they're momentarily stopped in their tracks. And we've been doing that for 85 years, the entire brand's history. And at this moment, the biggest way that women are stopped in their tracks is the Shecession. And so the number 7 brand decided to get behind that in a really big way. So in January, we launched the Unstoppable Together movement. And we launched with the film that you just saw and that we created with Jen and her amazing team. And that film is really intended to start the conversation and raise awareness of the Shecession. There's still a lot of people that don't know that this is happening. And we wanted to inspire people to rally together and join the movement and be part of the solution. And we also, in late February, launched, as part of the Unstoppable Together movement, a job summit. And so that took place and was a combination of very inspiring iconic women coming together. So people like Ariana Huffington and Tamron Hall and Padma Lakshmi, really providing advice and perspective to build back your confidence to go after getting back into the workforce, as well as a number of other women talking to practical resources and tips to get women back to the workforce. So we were really proud of that moment. And now we're turning our efforts to sustaining the effort. And so number 7 is continuing the conversation by, continuing to raise awareness, post about the stats, share women's stories. And we're also continuing with the help. And so we are providing ongoing coaching to women who have engaged with us through this movement and who are looking for a job. So small group coaching on topics like interviewing or shaping your story, balancing the workload as a mom, with kids being at home now. And so topics like that. So I'm proud of the work that we're doing. I really hope that, others will get involved, both in our Unstoppable Together movement, but also other businesses, other leaders will start to recognize the Shecession as a true national crisis and get involved.
I love the work that you've been doing and creating change for these women and in a really tough time and being there to support. So thank you for sharing. B, as the CEO of the Honeypot, how do you see the role of a brand during the Shecession? And when you talk about women, and supporting humans with vaginas, like how do you see your role playing into that?
I mean, I think one of the biggest ways that I see Honeypot playing into that is, we're in the middle of building a really, what it feels like a really big social impact for us and for me. It feels like we're starting small when in fact it's probably a little bigger than what I think. But, we're in the middle of developing a social impact around benefiting women because in Africa, and especially in Western Africa and Togo, 1 out of 15 women is dying, right? When they're in childbirth. And I know that this is in another country, but we're also going to be doing some work here. Here in America, one of the organizations that we're going to work with actually provides showers. And the people that are taking these showers are people that have been affected by this Shecession, right? In California, it is crazy how many people are sleeping in their cars, right? Going to the gym to take a shower, right? Living in some of them, and we're seeing tent cities pop up everywhere. So the way that we're looking at that, the way that I feel like we're dealing with that as a company is we're working really hard to develop programs to give back to these humans that have really been affected by all this, by what's going on. And then the other thing is it's really important to me, even with our workforce, because we're building our team, we're growing. It's important to me that I'm hiring women, right? It's important that we're paying these women well, right? It's important that they own a piece of this company. So at some point when this company exits, that they'll walk away with money in their pocket. It's important that we give the right benefits. It's important that that we set them up for success if they have children at home, right? Because shit happens. What are you going to do? So these are just some of the ways that Honeypot, we have to start where we are. I truly believe that before you can go out and help anybody else, you really have to take a look at where you are. You really have to assess what it is that you can invest, right? Because there's only so much that you can do, but what I believe is that even if it's small, as long as there's an effort there, as long as you can give something, even because what we think is small is relative, so, and then personally, because I do a lot of speaking engagements, I talk to people all the time. I'm constantly on an IG live or a podcast or, constantly doing interviews. And a lot of the women that I'm talking to, because I'm 98% of the time I'm talking to women, right, who have directly been affected by this, right? And constantly they're trying to figure out how do they start a business? How do you scale? How do you raise money? How do you work while running your business? And, you know, these are all places that things that I've lived through, right? And I mean, I can't tell you the shit that I've had to do to make money, right? Because when you just have to do what you have to do. You know, so personally, I'm encouraging women and talking to them and telling them everything I know.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do it for nothing, you know, because I'm grateful for this experience. So those are just some of the ways Honeypot is contributing. And, you know, there's many others, but.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I think the notion of you sharing your story is so important for others to hear in the Shecession, because I heard you on a podcast talking about how it came to you in a dream. And sometimes people think that a business that needs to be started with such laid out plans and these, like this huge process. And how could I possibly do this in the situation that I'm in? But you can, right? And you can take that leap. And I love your story and sharing that. I think it gives women tremendous hope. So thank you for that.
And what, if you don't mind me saying, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and whatever's showing up for you in this time, even though it sucks, even though this Shecession is a terrible thing, even though it does set us back. I think that it's an opportunity to move us forward. We just have to look at it with a certain perspective, you know, and come together as women-owned companies, as just global-owned companies, not even just women-led companies, right? And come together, because there's a way to get through this. You know, I don't think that I think that if I'm being overly optimistic, I think that this is short-lived, hopefully, and I think that that we can get through it.
I'm glad you're optimistic. I hope so too. Kate, in some of the research that we've done, we've seen that 70% of women want to see brands step behind this effort and do something about it. And I think some of the programs that you're creating with Luminary enable brands to create change. I would love you to talk a little bit about that and how you've been supporting women during the Shecession.
Sure. And I think B is right? It's a collective effort. Anisha mentioned it as well. This is not about women just banding together and supporting women. This is not isolated to just affecting women. It's affecting society, affecting economic recovery. It's really pulling down everything that we've gained and everything that sits ready for the next generation to participate in. And so a combination of working with both public and private sector is absolutely needed. We can no longer talk about this. Luminary did a study back in June of 2020, before any of this was even sort of being talked about with bustle. And women were saying, I am ready to leave the workforce. I don't know how to continue to do this. Not just moms, right? Women that are just overwhelmed, women that just can't work what they had been working, women that were displaced and fired. So, you know, early on in reading that, we knew at Luminary we had to do something more, right? We're a self-funded little company based out of New York that had an opportunity to impact people and women and men globally. And so we went to a number of the corporate partners and members that we were already working with and said, help us, right? We can only do so much. And we were looking at two populations, women-owned businesses that had been impacted and women that have been impacted, right? Whether they were fired, they were displaced, they had to leave their job. You know, and that 5 million statistic that you gave earlier, 2.1 million of that 5 million women are not looking for jobs currently. They can't. They do not have the capacity to have a job and manage everything else. And so, but what happens when you lose your job? What happens if you have to let go of your job? What happens if you're a woman business owner that's struggling? You still need access to networks. You still need access to ongoing education, door openers, building your network, continuing to be tethered to what you were doing. And so Luminary has done that since we opened our doors. It's all around community and content. At the end, sort of toward the end of last year, we announced the fellowship program. And our first three partners were Verizon, Unilever, and UBS. And what does that allow for? It provides over 500 women currently sponsored memberships at Luminary, regardless of where they are, regardless of what they do. What we cared about was supporting them and getting them back on their feet so that whether it's a small business, they can not only survive, right? This is not just about surviving. This is about thriving and prospering and recovering. And then those that have lost their jobs or have been impacted, in what way? Just because they're struggling doesn't mean they shouldn't have access to a community that's supportive of like-minded individuals with real education and access for the tools that they need to get back on their feet. So we are optimistic in that more companies need to join that effort, not just with Luminary, with what Walgreen Boots is doing and Number 7 and the Unstoppable campaign. If we don't call out companies to start supporting women, then we are so far behind. By the time we hit 2022, this is going to be even worse. And so whether it's government, and we know that's going to take time for new policies, federal policies, state policies, it's got to be in partnership with companies and organizations like Luminary to help this recovery faster, and certainly support new jobs, more jobs, and getting these women back in the workforce. But let's not forget the women that are still in the workforce, all of us. How do we also maintain support for everyone that's still there, pushing their businesses, building their companies, managing their organizations? They equally need that support, that education, and that community, and those connections that we can help them with. So I'm very passionate about this, and I think
I love the passion. I love
As
this.
you should be.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, as you should be. It would be weird if you weren't passionate about it, Kate.
You know, and then you created an amazing initiative with Connect the Women, right? That started really just connecting women in a time where a year ago, we didn't know how long this was going to last, right? We're on Zoom, maybe this is 2 months, now we're almost a year into this. But now you're taking it a step further and really looking at how Connect the Women can help the recovery, support the recovery of this Shecession. I mean, where did that all start, and how are you helping? I know I'm a part of it, but I would love to give the audience an overview of sort of what the initiative is doing.
Yeah, I started Connect for Women in 2019, and much like a dream, I started it on a treadmill, and I thought, what can I be doing to support women? And I thought, well, I'll make 4 connections per day for women for the entire month of March, and I'll see what I learn, and then, see maybe if other people want to join me. And so I tweeted it from the treadmill that morning, and I was like, all right, this is a thing now. And it was amazing. I found that it not only expanded my network, it expanded the networks of others. I met so many new people through it. So I invited people to join me in May, and the community grew. We made over 2,000 connections that year for women. And then I decided this year to make it more focused around individual needs of women. So in the fall, we did a Young Connectors program where we helped Gen Z girls on their paths to jobs. And I think that that's so important in the time of the Shecession, because these girls, it's their first time trying to get a job, and they need advice and they need support. So we did connections calls with them, and then made connections for them. And then this quarter, we're doing a quarterly connection challenge for the Shecession. And so we have 115 women looking for jobs, and the stories are incredible. One woman has applied to 350 jobs, and you're seeing these kinds of stories, and then people leaving the workforce because they had kids and taking a break and not able to get back in, and that struggle and how to be coached through it. And so what we're doing for them is matching them with 2 connectors, and they're having 30-minute calls with the women on our list, the connectees as we call them, and then making 2 connections per call. I mean, I'm hoping that more comes out of it than those conversations and the connections, but it really is the magic of what happens in that connection and how it grows. We also have Power Her Hours with amazing content about interviewing skills and all sorts of different financial management in the pandemic, and just coaches that have raised their hands to help, and so many women that are just doing this to support other women right now. And it really is, it's honestly magical to see women coming together to help each other. And I'm honored to be a part of it, and hope that we can find at least 75 of these women jobs. So that's my hope.
I'm biased, I'm a part of it, Jen, but I think it is really making an impact. And I don't know if I shared this, but with one of the Gen Z connections that I made 2 weeks ago, we actually had her on the panel at Luminary talking about being Gen Z in this workforce. She has never met a colleague or her manager, have not yet been in an office yet, and graduated virtually. So we think there are all of these problems that are out there, obviously for working moms and all of us, but 9% of the 5 million women that are out of jobs are between the ages of 20 and 24. So think about when you started your career, you didn't even have an opportunity to get in the door. And so I think all of these initiatives, everything that you're doing, everything that Unstoppable Together initiative is doing, certainly what B is doing, it's a collective effort, and it really has to continue to bring everyone together. Otherwise, it's all BS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. And to that point, I mean, some of Anisha, I'd love to hear some of the challenges that you face when combating this movement. And tell us more about why we think that this pandemic has affected women more than others, and some of the stereotypes that have really come out because of this pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of challenges faced, I think Kate started to allude to this really well, which is how long it's taken to get national attention on the Shecession issue. And, as Kate mentioned, like some of the labor stats started coming out as early as May or June of 2020 around the rate at which women were leaving the workforce, either being laid off or, choosing to leave because there was so much pressure in terms of childcare and things like that. And in September, those stats got worse as, I think it was like 800,000 women left the workforce at that time. In December, the stats got even worse. There were stats around every single job that was lost in America in December was lost by a woman. So if you just think about that, it's so alarming, it's so staggering. And it has taken until now, just in the last kind of few weeks, really, for the national media to start covering this as a story. And if you think about, back in May, if we had seen labor stats that showed men were leaving the workforce at 4 times the rate of what women, there would have been national headlines around it. We would have all mobilized really quickly. Everyone would have called it a crisis back then. And so I think that we're a little late to the game. I'm glad to see that people are talking about this now and the national media is starting to cover it. And I hope that continues. But that's been one of the biggest challenges, because as a result of just the lack of attention on it, most people aren't aware that the Shecession is happening. As number 7 launched the Unstoppable Together movement, I was consistently getting comments from other leaders in the business world, as well as watching consumer comments on some of our social media posts where people are like, oh, really? Like they didn't even know this was happening. And that is because as a country, we have not been talking about it. So that's a big challenge and one that we've got to change. And so I'm glad that we're all sitting here talking about this. And then in terms of, the different reasons why women are in this situation, there's the reason of people have gotten laid off, obviously, in droves during the pandemic, but women are particularly, they have higher representation in industries that have been higher impacted by COVID. So the hospitality industry, for example, service industries, and women of color have an even higher representation in those industries. So those layoffs or furloughs have dramatically impacted women. And then when it comes to women who are mothers, for every father who's left the workforce, 3 mothers have. And, if that's your choice, that's your choice. But there are a lot of women where it wasn't a choice. It was a forced thing because you just couldn't keep up with work plus children at home. You know, schools were closing, childcare centers were closing. And unfortunately, we're still in times where the expectation is that women are the primary caregiver. Those, you know, stereotypes still exist. And if even if it's not about stereotypes, you know, it's about pay equity, because we still aren't paid at an equitable rate as men. And so if you're talking with your spouse about someone's got to stay home, the kids are at home, we need help or whatever, and we can't have outside caregivers because of COVID, the natural choice is often the woman because she makes less than her husband. And so for all of these reasons, women have been leaving the workforce at a much higher rate. And, you know, and it's, again, something that we need to do something about. And Jen, I'd love your perspective on this, because you're a very successful career woman, but you're also the mother of 2 young boys. And so what do you think we need to be doing to help support mothers in the workforce? And how do these stereotypes factor in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard time for moms right now. I mean, moms are literally like screaming for help. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it, but there's this thing called the Primal Scream line from the New York Times. And I actually think that in the edit, we should put up the number, because people are calling into this and crying, and it's all anonymous and screaming, just to have the voice to be able to get out the frustrations and stress that are on us. The other day, I'm homeschooling the kids here, and they're playing out with a ball, and I'm on a conference call, and the ball went over the fence, and the ball like rolled. It's a huge hill, so my kid comes in crying. I jump off the call because I don't want him to run out into the street and get hit by a car, you know, with the ball. I'm running down the road and I'm screaming, I hate this. I hate this. And like crying. And some lady's like, it went like a mile down the road. And I'm running in my clothes, and just like, it was, and the kids, you can see them from like in the distance, like, you got it, Mom. I'm like, I don't got it. And it was like this moment where I just lost it. It was too much. It is that for all of us. And, you know, I have some help, but it's still not enough. And I think that women, you know, we need more support, and really it's through policy. And the good news is that we are slightly making progress. Yesterday, in fact, Representative Grace introduced the Marshall Plan to Congress, and that is huge. And this has been championed by Reshma Sanjani and other amazing female thought leaders. I know Kate has been a part of this. And what this is this calling for robust paid leave. It has a vision towards universal childcare. It has a thought about increase in minimum wage to $15, mental health support for moms, and more. I obviously need it. And I think that, you know, this is a good step in the way to actually change our system, and hopefully bringing these stereotypes up and having us, you know, feel these issues that we may not have felt as severe will create the change that we need to create for, you know, moms. And I think that, you know, this is a step in the right direction to do so. So, you know, it's tough, and I'm glad and I'm lucky that there are people out there working really hard to change this and bring us some support.
And it doesn't matter if you're a mom.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not a mom, and I'm a mom, and I'm like, this is like not rocket science. We have to do something. We have to support the moms. We have to support the non-moms. We have to support the young women that are coming in. We have to support the women that are trying to get back in, those that are in retirement that now are being forced to go back into the workforce because of reasons. But this is a start. And the fact that we're actually getting government attention in what Reshma has put forward, and others like Eve Brodsky and many others, like, we have all got to be on there, and it can't just be women.
no.
Male leaders, the corporate leaders saying this is something we have to do. If you think about last year and the amount of money that was saved by corporations for no more travel and entertainment.
Yeah.
There's no more big events. No one was jumping on a plane. Yes, it's a cost savings. We get that. Utilize that. Take some of that money and put it back into the support you have for your working parents and for others that need help, whether that's access to childcare. Verizon announced a huge plan to support not only their working moms, but anyone that has a dependent, an elder care, someone with COVID, giving them an extended opportunity to not only work from home, but new benefits. Now is the time to reinvest in our people. And if we don't do that, we're going to be sitting here having the same conversation at the next South by Southwest, and it is going to just get worse. So it's not just a mom's issue. And the reason I jumped on the bandwagon for this is because it needs other voices. And you and I are in the same boat in this.
And really, like, truly, where it even starts at even like this cellular, molecular level is we have to uncondition ourselves as humans, right? Because part of the reason why we believe that women should be paid less, right? That that the woman needs to be the person at home to live. Right. Where even in the Black community, where a lot of women don't even have a man at home. Right. When you look at what's happening with the fucking prison system. Right. Where there's so many levels to this that it has to really start at a cellular level, just with how we view the world. Because how you view the world, what we all believe in as humans, like what we truly believe in, the shit that's really in there that nobody sees, right? The stuff that you really think when you're standing telling somebody else that you think is something else. That's the place that we have to look at, because humans do what they believe in and they do what they want to do. And you better believe that. So we have to think differently. Right. This is crazy, and it honestly, it really doesn't have to be. Like, there is a way out of this. There is a way around this. The fact that every person on that list of companies that had to either shut down, right, or laid people off, every person on that list was women. Wow.
It also is about, I love that government policy is starting to recognize this. I love that the Marshall Plan for Moms is starting to get traction. It's businesses, like you said, Kate, but it is mentorship too. The kind of stats Kate was talking to about young women are hugely impacted by this. If you think about the long-term impacts of that, we all were at an early stage of our career at some point in time, and think about the people that believed in us, that allowed us to believe in ourselves. And that's what got us to that next level, and then eventually got us to the points that we're at in our careers. And so those young women, if we're not reaching out and supporting them and connecting them and mentoring them, it's not only going to have an impact on them, it's going to have an impact on our labor stats as women in the future. And so I love, Jen, that you have Connect Women. It's so inspiring. And I think both men and women need to be reaching out right now to mentor our young women.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think too, I would like small businesses and female founders are another group that I think are it's been really affected. And B, I would love to hear you talk a little bit about that and like how we can help female founders during this time.
I mean, look, I think, like when you think about how 25% of the businesses started, were because most businesses that started, especially in 2020, were women of color, right? If 25% of all women businesses had to literally shut down, then what does that probably tell you about the humans that had to shut those businesses down? There needs to be more resources. Obviously, there needs to be more mentorship. Helping. I'm in a lot of conversations around how to raise money, when to raise money. you know, I found myself being a cheerleader recently because people get so, and it kind of makes me emotional a little bit because people get so down that they don't even know where to go. And they've got fucking ridiculous businesses. I mean, crazy businesses where had they been born as a man, and had they not been born with this skin, potentially, not that skin and color and man, not that those are two factors that just take you out of the box when it comes to raising capital. But had they had the same access to the same education, had they had access to the same learning development, had they had access to just some of those things, they probably would have already raised zillions and zillions and zillions of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, where I'm trying to do my best is to encourage people to think big, to think massive, to help them to understand that they can literally do anything that they put their mind to, right? To, you know, to raise that money. Don't be afraid of giving away your equity, right? Because you're not giving it away. Don't be afraid of losing control, because that's all in how you write up your operation agreements, right? Don't be afraid of potentially selling your business one day, because when you sell your business and you make a really decent amount of money, you know, you can then take that money in a situation like this and invest it in other businesses that are going through this Shecession, right? And so, you know, it's I'm really grateful that my company has done well with all this going on. But because of that, it pushes me more than normal to be that cheerleader, to be that mentor, to help to be the voice of reason, to be the ear if you just are frustrated, if you're tired, to tell you that it's going to be okay, to encourage you, you know, no matter what, to just stick to it, right? Because even with this, even though the numbers are terrible and it doesn't look like, you know, it looks like we should be thinking more pessimistic than optimistic, right? But we have to know that we have had progress. We have had 30 years of learnings, yep. Right? And that is not for nothing. And everything happens in order, even when it doesn't make sense. So it's really important for us to take these learnings to and we're having the right conversations. Everybody that's on this panel right now is doing the work, and then we all know people that are doing the work. And I think when that's happening, you know, when there's this kind of movement happening, something beautiful is going to come out of it. You know, yeah.
Jen, can I add something to that about the small business owners? Because I love his point around giving this advice and how we're supporting, particularly those that are been locked out of fundraising or financing, because fundraising is a big term, right? As a former banker, there's lots of ways to finance a business. For many of those ways, women, and historically women and certainly women of color, have been locked out to an extent for lots of ways of financing. You know, one of the things that I saw in the beginning of the pandemic, and it's still sort of happening, is all of these companies were giving grants out. Let me give you money. Here's $2,500. Here's $1,000. Here's the PPP. All very well intended and needed. But if you do not know
where to do it, what to do with it,
and how to manage your business and maintain your business and grow your business, then that check is going to be one time, right? And then you're back in the same position a month later. And so, you know, one of the things that we've done since we opened our doors at Luminary was teaching small business owners how to manage and run a business, whether that's, you know, understanding how to write or construct a business plan or a strategic plan, you know, how to do financial planning, understanding social media and marketing and branding, building a brand. And so I think this access is such a key word. It's access, whether you're a business owner, you're looking for a new job, you're trying to figure out what to do in your current situation. Access is so critical. Access to new connections, access to networks, access to resources, tools, education. We can't announce it yet, but we'll announce a very large partnership with a big company that's saying we've got to do more. We've got to get women back in jobs. We've got to get them tethered back to their communities and not feeling so disenfranchised and so displaced that they end up taking that 30 years that we've learned so much and making this even worse, right? For no fault of that, this is a recession that has impacted women differently than it has men. And so this idea of democratizing access, and Jen, you know this, it's been what we have done since day one. It is, we have to make these resources available to all, not just one. And so much of that can come out of partnerships with the private and public sector, exactly what the Unstoppable Together campaign and then Job Summit is doing. I'm obviously very passionate about this. This is what I do every day. This is what Luminary is doing. But, we can have these mini opportunities, of them. And if we can just get access to people, we can help them rebuild and recover.
Yeah, it's a bunch of little things that make a big thing. And that's what we all have to understand. You may only be able to do a little thing, but a pebble in a pond makes a ripple, And
I love that.
So it's really important for us to know, like, each one teach one, like whatever we have to do, even if it's just a conversation, even if it's just listening, like that scream line, that is brilliant, like I want to call that damn line right now, right?
A pebble in a pond makes a ripple. I want that to be our motto for the 5 of us every time we talk. I love that.
There's a line in the number 7 spot, and it says, "We've come too far to only come this far." And I think that's what we're
favorite line
championing and talking about right now. And one thing before we leave, I'd love you guys all to say one resource that everyone that's listening to us can turn to and explore. We talked about so many great things, and access and support and mentorship. So if it's in line with one of those things, that would be great. Anisha, you want to start?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I think like the first thing that came to my mind, because it's just so tactical and practical, is the power of LinkedIn right now is incredible. And there are, I've seen people posting saying I've lost a job, and thousands of people are replying to them who don't even know that person. And there are multiple kind of Excel spreadsheets of people signing up who need mentors and mentors to mentor them. And so Connect for Women is one of them. Literally an Excel spreadsheet. If you need help, go on there and put your name on there, and Jen will connect to you, and Connect for Women will connect to you. There's another one called Pay It Forward that's similar. It's open to everybody, and you can put your name on there and be connected. So those kinds of practical tips, there's free coaching out there. There's free spreadsheets out there to get your mentor. I think it's important to remember not everyone has that access, as Kate said, and especially if you're starting out, you may not have a network already. But I think if you're willing to put yourself out there, the help is there. And LinkedIn, I have seen, be a great resource for finding those kinds of opportunities and coaching sessions and things like that.
Great. Kate, what about you?
So I'll be a little bit biased in that, this is exactly why I stepped away from a very good career in banking, to support women as we advance them and help them on their professional journeys, regardless of what they do, right? And in fact, for the month of March, so Women's History Month that we're in, all of our programming, everything, you don't have to be a member of Luminary, is all free, right? Every single program, event, session that we lead is free and open to all. We started this last year when the pandemic hit and basically Women's History Month was canceled. And we made all of that programming open to everyone. And so luminary-nyc.com, sign up, right? Come to an event, whether you're sitting at JP Morgan and you're just frustrated, to you're running a business or thinking about starting a business, or you're in transition. It takes one step to start building back. And we really want to support everyone out there, both that haven't been impacted, because there are many that have not, but that want to do more, and those that have been impacted, and how we, again, recover and prosper as we head into the rest of this year.
Great. Thank you. That's awesome. I will definitely be utilizing that, although I'm a member, but B, what about you?
There's so many resources. I think that Target is doing a really great job with their accelerator programs. They're working with a lot of small businesses. A lot of those businesses are women of color, people of color, really. I think, there's a group that's amazing, Black Girl Ventures out of Birmingham. They are doing so much for the community. It's Black Girl Ventures, so they're focused on building up Black women and helping them to understand. I've actually been a part of some of their pitch competitions, which are really cool because it's a competition, but everybody's walking away with something, but just helping people to go out there and just have the conversations, right? Mm-hmm. I think as we think personally, as we're personally responsible for our journeys on this planet, working with yourself to have an awareness of where you are in your mind. In this moment is hard. People have got some really terrible circumstances and situations going on. Most of it is very much out of their control, right? But as humans, what we can do as a resource is go into ourselves, figure out what we can control and what we can't, right? Make a list of that so that you understand what that is. Get clever around if you're in a bad financial situation. I'm sure that you have a friend who may be in a bad financial situation. Maybe you guys can come together, right? Maybe you can live together. Maybe you can come into business together. There's a lot of businesses that there's so many customer service businesses that are popping up out of nowhere, right? And those people work from home, right? Not being afraid to go and bag a grocery, not being afraid to flip a burger. If that's what you have to do right now, I think the biggest resource is doing what you must do to get to where you want to go, and understand that might be uncomfortable, but that's okay. Pressure bust pipes. And sometimes, on this startup journey, I personally know, because I've done everything that you could possibly imagine, even the shit that you probably can't imagine, to survive on this journey of being a co-founder and starting a company and being a brown person and raising money and doing all these things and having all these feats, right? But the realness behind all of that is that I chose this life, right? Mm-hmm. And in choosing that, I'm willing to do anything to make sure that it happens. And so I think the biggest resource is be upset, be sad, be where you need to be, because this is not easy, but understand that you are capable of figuring it out, and that has to start with you.
I love that. And if you need it, call the Primal Scream line.
Call the Primal Scream line.
Scream it out.
Or go outside and scream.
Yeah, go outside like I did. No, thank you all so much for this amazing wisdom and support. I love what you said, B, about a stone creates a ripple, and that, it's not just you can do something to support women in the Shecession, and every little action, no matter how small it is meaningful. So just think about what you can do to make that small step to help someone that and that has been affected. And thank you so much all for listening.